My name's Ethan, and I'm a medical examiner for the state police. For the most part, I don't have any problems with taking care of autopsies, but the body I took care of last night made me quit my job. It started like any other autopsy. A body comes in, I sign the delivery, and I put it in the fridge until I'd be ready to start working on it. The body that came in was male. Looking at the notes, I found his name was Salem Blake. He was 41 years old, 6'5", dark short hair, and he had a short beard, maybe about an inch or so in length. You could see some grey hairs around his temples. Looking at the head, I couldn't see any signs of trauma, and his green eyes looked normal for a dead guy. No signs of damage in his mouth or around the neck either. Checking his entire body, I could conclude that there was no obvious signs of external damage, except for a several-day-old bruise on his left hand. Sad, I said to myself as he lay there, his arms along his sides with the palms resting on the autopsy table. Mr. Blake was somewhat of a celebrity in a small town nearby. He founded a company that manufactures premium scented candles, and had made a lot of money by selling them both in stores around here and online with shipping around the world. As far as anyone in the precinct knew, he didn't have any enemies. He was in good shape and left behind his lovely fiancée and 2 children. He did a lot for his community, helped with coaching the local juniors in baseball, volunteered in the soup kitchen in the city I work in, and he started a fundraising campaign to help build affordable housing to reduce homelessness. I walked over to my chart and made some notes before proceeding to take out the tools I needed to start opening him up. I made a Y incision and peeled back the skin. There was pretty much no blood, since the heart wasn't pumping anymore. The color of the blood looked normal considering the circumstances. I then detached the muscles, exposing the abdominal cavity, his rib cage, and the neck muscles. Making a couple of cuts along the sides of the rib cage, I removed that as well. As I lifted the ribs off the body, it almost seemed like it twitched a little. I shrugged it off as the weight shifting. I then proceeded to cut the ligaments, the arteries, and a few other parts out so that I could take out the organs for closer inspection. I removed the intestines, the kidneys, the liver. I had to cut a bit more to remove the bladder and the prostate. Had I not known better, I'd swear his fingers moved ever so slightly, but it was late and I was tired after a long day. It was almost 1 a.m. in the morning, so being tired wasn't that strange. The mind can play tricks on you, especially when you're tired, and in my line of work, I've heard a thing or two. I inspected each organ and weighed them. Everything looked normal. Strange, I thought to myself. Not a single thing seems to be wrong. What did he die of? I removed the lungs, and sure, you could tell he was a smoker, but I have seen lungs in way worse condition than these. I looked at Mr. Blake's face, and the eyelids had opened just a tad. It happens every once in a while, as the body starts to dry up. I had seen it before. I took some biopsies from the organs I had removed and put them in a new machine we have that scans for anomalies in the cells. A neat piece of technology, even though I don't understand how it works, just that it does. Since I had a cup of coffee, or 5, too many, I felt I needed to relieve myself, so I figured I'd do that while waiting for the machine to do its thing. When I came back, the machine had printed the result. Still nothing. I don't get it. Nothing with the organs, nothing particularly strange with the lungs, no severe trauma anywhere on the body nor inside. Everything seems normal. I made some more notes on the chart, yawned, and stretched. I poured myself a 6th cup of coffee, when I remembered that the heart was still in Mr. Blake's body. I took a sip from my mug and put it on the table. "All right," I said, sighing. "Let's get this over with." I took out his heart, examined and weighed it, and then put a few more notes on the chart. As I turned around to face him again, his eyes had opened completely, which I had never seen before. "Well, that's new," I said to no one, since I was alone at work. It was in the middle of the night, after all. His eyes stared up into the ceiling. I walked over to one of our cabinets where we store our surgical sutures and polypropylene threads. "Better sew those babies shut. We don't want you to scare people when it's time for your funeral." As I walked closer to Mr. Blake's body, his eyes were staring at me sideways. I dropped the needle and the polypropylene on the concrete floor as I let out a yelp. Slowly, a sinister grin spread across his face, and as I walked over to my desk, I saw his eyes were following me. "That's not possible," I stammered. His eyes tried to make contact with mine, all while he kept smiling menacingly. I crossed the room towards the door. I needed some fresh air. I walked through the foyer and out the front doors. As I stood on the steps outside, leaning against the railing, I said to myself, "Keep it together, you're just tired, you're imagining things. His eyes aren't following you. It's all in your head." After maybe 5 minutes or so, I took a few deep breaths and I walked back inside. When I walked into the autopsy room, I found to my horror that Mr. Blake's body was no longer lying on the autopsy table. In the storage room, next to the autopsy room, I heard a faint tapping. I slowly walked a bit closer to see what was making the noise. I barely had time to react as the door behind me flew open with a loud bang, almost flying off the hinges. It was Mr. Blake, or at least his body, running towards me with that sinister grin, his arms held towards me, his hands grabbing my neck as I felt the air failing to reach my lungs. He was choking me. I fell and landed on my back. I was struggling to loosen his grip. I couldn't pry his hands away. He was too strong. His evil glare met my eyes, all while he kept grinning. I could see the hatred, I could see evil. All he wanted was me dead. His grip made me feel like something in my neck was about to break. He slowly opened his mouth, and blood and bile poured onto my face. I kicked and I fought with all my might, all while the light grew dimmer as my body started to feel the lack of oxygen. Finally, I managed to reach a jug of lye standing in one of the floor cabinets right next to us. I grabbed it and swung it as hard as I could. I hit his head and he lost the tight grip around my neck. I hit him again and this time he fell off of me. The rush I felt when my lungs once again was filled with air and the adrenaline pumping through my veins made me able to stand up. His body was wriggling on the floor, arms and legs flailing around at a superhuman speed. I raised the jug and slammed it onto his head. I heard a cracking sound, but he was still moving. I hit him again, and again, and again. One last time, I used all the force I could muster, and I brought the jug down on his head again. This time, both the jug and his skull cracked, leaking a mess of brains and lye on the floor. Panting, I backed away from the mess, trying to collect myself. The body wasn't moving anymore. Mine, however, was. I walked out of the room, barricaded the door just in case, and I left. I was exhausted. While driving away, I left a message on my boss's answering machine, giving him my notice of resignation. When I got home, I took a long hot shower, and then I went to bed. I've spent this whole day trying to understand what happened last night. I've downed half a bottle of whiskey since I woke up a couple of hours ago. My boss, Dr. Lethe has called me. I haven't answered. He's left several messages asking me to call him back. He didn't understand why I wanted to resign. He didn't mention anything about the mess left on the floor. It probably wasn't easy to see what it was, but it shouldn't be too hard to figure out. One of my daytime colleagues called. I let the phone ring a few signals before I picked up. Hello? Hey Ethan, how are you? A concerned tone in his voice. Liam, hey, I've been better. You sound a bit off. Yeah, I had a rough night at work last night. I understand. I've been there. I just got back from a week off and heard about Mr. Blake. Did Dr. Lethe tell you? I asked. No, I saw it on the news last night when I got back. I've been off-grid in the middle of the woods with no power, no electronics. Just me, my girlfriend, and nature. We rented a cabin. Sounds nice. Dr. Lethe has called me several times today, but I haven't picked up. I guess he's mad about the mess I left behind. Mr. Blake's body... What mess? He cut me off. It's a long story, and I doubt you'd believe me. No, seriously, what mess? Everything is spotless here. What do you mean, spotless? What about... I heard something at the door. Hang on, there's someone at the door. It sounds like they're tapping. I walked slowly towards my apartment door. Tapping? Not knocking? No, I replied. Tapping. I heard it last night when Oh no. I felt my heart turning into a lump in my chest, my breathing quickening, and goosebumps crawling across my skin, almost to the point of hurting as I looked through the peephole. When you what? Liam asked. Ethan? I kept hearing the tapping. Ethan, Liam commanded. It can't be. Through the peephole, I saw Mr. Blake, his evil grin and his dark eyes staring through my soul. With a swift pull, he tore the door off its hinges, and once again I stood face to face with my living nightmare. He screamed as he ran towards me, arms reaching for my neck.
That was fucking scary. Thomas and I want to thank you for watching, and Thomas is extremely grateful for your patience. It's Halloween again. Enjoy, if you dare.